Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, the first two-day conference for and by Black independent podcast creatives and audio professionals. I'm excited to spotlight 28 outstanding indie podcast creatives who answered the call to be a part of this series. Today, my guest is Gerald Davis. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Talib. Appreciate it.
Definitely, man. I've been excited about talking to you, man. I met you at the conference in October. And as we stated right before we started recording, it was a busy time, but I'm glad that we're able to connect now. So before we jump into the podcast, tell the folks a little bit about Gerald.
Gerald Davis, my podcast, All Things Basketball with GD. I've been doing that since July of 2021. So it's been almost 2 years now. It's been rewarding. It's been great doing something that you're passionate about. It's been good. The feedback has been good. So just continuing to try and push out content that people like. It's a little original, edgy, maybe in some sort of ways, but yeah, just having fun with it.
All right, man. Where are you from?
I am from Harlem, USA, Harlem, New York, and New York City, but now I hail in Queens.
All right. I see your Knicks gear on. People don't wear Knicks gear unless they have a loyalty in New York. But I wanted people to make the connection.
Yes. 40 years plus as a fan.
All right. Yeah, my wife is also a Knicks fan, born and raised in Staten Island. It's a real thing. So you jump right into the podcast, which is great. Why basketball?
That's where my passion is, really. When I first started, I launched two podcasts. One was basketball, the other was fantasy football, which is another passion of mine, but it was just too much. So I said, I'm either going to do one or the other. Basketball is what I grew up on. Basketball it is. So I just carried that and stayed with that.
That's what's up, man. It's good to know, one, your limitations. And two, that there's a zone that you get to stay in and really perfect, especially when it's finding your voice and having a message that you do want to connect with audiences specifically. So that's great that you realized that kind of early on. I assume that you came out the gate with the two in 2020.
Yes, I did. The season was just about to start, but I covered some other topics before the season got underway. So that kind of eased me into doing the full season and putting out content.
All right. And why a bunch of different mediums in order to get your message out there and talk about your passion? Why podcasting for you?
It's not a lot of voices like mine out there, especially, of course, being in Black space, not a lot of voices there. And then also, there's a lot of re-education that a lot of people need as far as basketball, and I hope to bring that as well. There's a lot of guys from the old days that we forget about. I like to shine a light on them while I talk about the guys of today. So, in fact, next month, I'm going to have a Black History Month, so I got a few player spotlights I got lined up. So we'll talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I actually have a podcast that I've produced called the Turnaround Podcast, and it is based on a friend of mine who, his name is Stuart Squirt Holly, and he's an international basketball player, played in the ABA and that sort of thing. And it's a biopic, so it's like completely his story. So that's what's up, man. And I love that. As soon as I saw what you focus on and his knowledge and experience with basketball, when you are a basketball fan, and when you grew up with it and you're passionate about it, whether it's playing or watching, you can tell the folks that watch it and just know what's on the screen, and the folks who got it in their heart and their head, and they'll tell you about all the inductees and the different and how all of them are important. And one of the things that he says a lot is that being in the ABA and International Basketball League, but never the NBA, that don't ever tell him that he's not a professional basketball player. And so when it comes to the folks that you bring on, you do interviews with folks?
I have not yet. Okay. That's part of my goals, by the way.
All right. That's what's up. So what's the format right now, and how did you choose it?
Okay. My format is I do an intro, like what's the show's going to be about, and then I just get into the topics that I'm going to discuss. And sometimes it runs maybe a half hour. Sometimes it runs close to an hour, depending on what I'm talking about. Mostly, I do like a recap of the week in the NBA all the different stories and so forth, injuries and things like that. So I'll cover all that. All the scoring that's going on. It's been crazy in the league this year with that. So I'll cover that as well. And the All-Star game is coming up. So I got 2 episodes that I'm going to push out today, talking about the starters and then my predictions for the reserves. Like I'll give a list of candidates and then I'll pick out the reserves. I think that'll probably make it in. Last year I was close to right. So maybe this year I'll be all the way right.
All right. Hopefully some of those FanDuel fans of the app are happy to listen to you.
Yes.
So talk to me about that, your audience. Did you go in knowing who you wanted to listen to the podcast and who you wanted to engage with? Or has some of the listeners and feedback been surprising to you with who is listening?
The reach has been surprising. I've listened to in countries like Ireland and a few others overseas, and that has been surprising, the reach that my podcast has. But as far as feedback from people I know, they've enjoyed it. They enjoyed me giving my knowledge and my little asides as well. So it's been positive all the way around.
That's cool, man. So you had mentioned about some of the interviews that you have coming up. I feel like you mentioned that.
Player spotlights, like
Okay.
I've done it in the past where I spotlight a player. I've done Julius Erving. In fact, last February for Black History Month, I did Bill Russell. Actually, it was a 2-part series on him. Yeah, so I'll just highlight their careers, some of their achievements and so forth, and what they've done after basketball as well.
All right, man. That's really cool. As you expand into this new year and looking at the podcast and where it can grow and how it can grow, what are your thoughts on expansion for the podcast?
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to get the show a bit bigger. Of course, monetization is always at the top of the list, so of course. Just trying to get the word out. I just changed YouTube channels. So I had a channel already that had about 35,000 subscribers. So I just switched all my content and put it in that channel. And it's been great. It's been great getting a lot of views and likes and all those sort of things. That has really helped me. Thanks in part to my son-in-law. He's brilliant when it comes to this stuff. So I lean on him for the latest in the new technology and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have support, man, especially when your zone of genius is the content creation. So that's great. So you mentioned YouTube. Is your podcast mostly on YouTube?
I have my own website, and that was a big goal of mine for last year. And I have my own website, so I try and push a lot of the traffic. I know that helps with SEOs. Akila, of course, helped me with that. Yeah, so I put a lot of it there, but it's also on other platforms like Anchor, Breaker is another one, and multiple platforms as well. Spotify, those places.
Where do you find that you have the most success in downloads and streams?
It's been YouTube now. It's been YouTube. I get a lot of traffic there. On the website, I'm still trying to figure out the statistics and all that as far as that goes, but it seems like people are going to the website. So that's been my aim, to push them towards the website. Maybe then I could, in the future, have some merchandising and those sort of things I could do from the website.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about like the vision. And so when it comes to the expansion of interviews and stuff like that, we got to put it out there, man. Who's your dream guest, if it's one particular or a few folks? What's that vision?
Dream guest, of course, everybody would say LeBron James, obviously, but somebody like that, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, he doesn't tell you much, that guy. Draymond Green, who's very popular in the podcasting space. Love to talk to him. He gives it to you real. Definitely would love to talk to him one of these days.
When it comes to vision, where is it that you see the podcast going? Is there opportunities for organizations, the NBA, people listening? And when I speak about that, thinking about basketball clinics and stuff like that, you have all of this knowledge and there's so much opportunity that this audio and this platform can take you. What are some of those goals that you have?
Oh, I would love to be able to get one of those passes so I could go and attend games and get my breakdown in that way. There's a few guys that I follow on Instagram, like CP the Franchise. He done blew up his show. Got Danny B, he does his Nick analysis from the car. So those are some of the guys I look up to and try and take a little bit from them and incorporate it into my podcast.
All right, man, that's great. It seems like you have started this podcast with some great intention and definitely as a part of your passion and something that you are enjoying. Have you been enjoying podcasting and why?
Believe it or not, I have. The part that's grueling is the editing, and then, of course, the promoting of it, because I'm a one-man show, so I'm doing pretty much everything. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on IG, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, trying to promote the show. That part of it's been a lot. In the end, it'll be rewarding. So I just got to suck it up and do it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's why I have been pushing on the expansion and the vision, because I'm wanting you to look back at this video one day and say, wow, that was my vision for 2023. Look at me now, man.
Yes.
Yeah, man, because it's all possible. And that's the great thing about podcasting and believing in the value add that you're creating in the space.
Yes.
Yeah, it's important, man. So when it comes to some of the advice you would have for either people who are wanting to break into a specific niche, because you are in a niche podcast genre, what would you say to people? And do you think that being niche, and like you said, it was genius in the beginning that you started with fantasy football and basketball, and then you decided, let me niche it down a little bit more. Yes, I love both of them. Yes. But this is where I think that I will be able to continue and sustain myself in the content creation.
Yeah, I would just say narrow your focus to one thing. Don't do like I did initially with being too ambitious with two podcasts going at the same time. Narrow your focus one and just enhance that. Bring about good content that people will come back listening for, and just be real. Be real. People can spot a phony from a mile away, but be real with your stuff and you'll get the love back.
No doubt, man. I see some stuff behind you. Let's talk about it. What do you want to promote and what do you want to push forward as?
Oh, it's just my passion here. Kung Fu flicks. I love Shaw Brother movies.
All right. All right.
Yeah. But as far as promotion, again, I'm going to be doing player spotlights. I got 4 people lined up. On February 7th, I'm going to do Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's been big on social justice, and he has a rich history as far as basketball from high school to college to the pros. The 14th, on Valentine's Day, I'm going to push out Oscar Robertson. Actually, they were both teammates at one time, but he went through a lot coming up. He came up in the 60s, and he went through a lot at high school. His team, in fact, won the state championship, but they wouldn't even give them a parade in the city because it was an all-black team. So he went through a lot. And even post-basketball, he's done a lot as well. And then the 21st of February, I'm going to do John Thompson. So when you're familiar with being in the Baltimore, Washington area, how big he's been for the Georgetown program and all that he's done. And then the 28th of February, I'm going to do Maya Moore, who she just announced her retirement, and she's been big as far as prison reform. In fact, the person she advocated for, she eventually ended up marrying, but her basketball resume is very outstanding. So I just wanted to spotlight her as well in that month.
Okay, so I'm spotting a theme here: social justice and basketball.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so when people listen and tune into the podcast, what do you feel, and whether you feel like it is their biggest takeaway or what you want them to take away from your show?
Oh, that I've learned something that I didn't know. I've got insight I didn't hear from, every Joe Schmo that's out there with a podcast or show. A little something different I want to bring to the table for people to be like, I never thought of it that way. So.
All right. And when you do your player spotlights, do you engage, like is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar going to be aware of the fact that there's a spotlight of him?
Well, I'll at him, just so he knows that I'm talking about him and so forth. Or if I get feedback, I've done it on other players and haven't exactly gotten anything back. So maybe he'll surprise me. One of them will.
Yeah, the opportunity is there as long as they're alive, obviously. I always say I'm a life coach and as well as all this stuff people know me by, but we have access to anybody that's alive and breathing, and we're all humans having this human experience. And so if they exist, we have access to them. Doesn't mean that they're going to respond to you, but it also doesn't mean that you don't attempt to get that
Yes.
and get that access, because we're all people, man. We're all out here. And a lot of us are waiting for the opportunity to talk to someone that's not in a space that is asking us the same questions over and over again, or spotlighting us in a different way, an angle. And again, the social justice angle and the historic angle is, I think, perfect, because a lot of people want to keep you in a time capsule.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, and these people continued on well after their career doing some amazing things. So I think it's important. It's important work you're doing.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You mentioned some of the podcasts that you listen to. Any others that you wanted to shout out?
Jamel Hill is Unbothered. That's a show I like. This it's a podcast, but it's more like a radio show. Joe Madison, Black Eagle, he's down in your area as well. I like to get my political feeding for the day from him, and he usually delivers. That's a couple of shows I really listen to. And of course, the NBA channel on Sirius XM. I try and listen to different opinions and so forth. And I may speak about it on the show and then give an opposite opinion or maybe agree. Yeah. So those are the shows I've listened to for the most part.
Okay, that's awesome. You're a podcaster who listens to podcasts. You'll be surprised that there's a lot of podcasters who don't listen to podcasts at all. So that's great, man. Anything else you want to tell the folks about the podcast, about yourself?
I think I pretty much covered it, but I'm just thankful to be in this space as far as the Black Podcasters Association, and of course with Afros and Audio. From you guys, I learned so much. I'm just appreciative to you guys. Part of my growth is being in this space here with you. Definitely appreciate it. And you guys got my support 100%. So
I appreciate that, man. And you did attend the fourth annual podcast festival, and it was your first time, correct?
actually, I went to the virtual one the year before.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you for your support, man. So, what was your take on the in-person conference?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I got to meet all these different folks as well. It was great. I got to hang out with the infamous Ralph. He's a character, but I enjoyed that. And I just got to meet so many different people there. Jason from the OSATs, the independent radio and music. I got to meet him there. I got to meet Leo Rochelle. Laurel Rutledge. I got to speak to her, Shamiko Reed, and a bunch of other folks as well. Of course, Corey Gunn's my guy, who, of course, he stays in my corner, always encouraging me as well. So between him, Mimi, and Afrika, those are my people there. So I definitely appreciate them as well. And all the rest of the folks I ran into there, just so encouraging. Anna Deshawn, Crystal Hill, and congrats to hers. I hear she's up for an award at the NCAA Image Awards. I'm around some dope creators and dope folks in the podcasting space, and I'm just soaking it in, just trying to get all the knowledge I can from you guys.
That's what's up, man. I see now how you are in this NBA world and these stats and stuff, because you are great with names, my brother. You just tuned it out, and I'm like, wow, you're really good with names. I love that. I could be better, but I'm always impressed, because that's something I'm still working on. But absolutely, that's what we're here for, man. We are a part of a really great community. I consider myself a part of it as well. And I also get to meet folks like yourself that I would have never gotten the opportunity to if not for the conference and the community. So I'm appreciative of your contribution to us as well, man. So thank you.
Not a problem. I'm just a student in the game here.
Same.
Yes.
We all are, man. Until it's over, we stay learning, man. So again, I really appreciate you being a part of this conversation and our first interview series. I'm going to close this out unless there's anything else you wanted to give to the folks. I'll close this.
No, just the website, all things basketball with GD.com. That's the official website. You go there, everything is listed there. Like I said, I got 2 episodes, should be on there before today is out. I thank you guys. I thank you for having the space to even promote my show here. Definitely appreciate the love and the support.
Absolutely. So tell us your YouTube channel as well and the social media.
YouTube channel is at All Things Basketball GD, and on Facebook, All Things Basketball with GD. You search that, you'll find my page there. IG, same there, All Things Basketball with GD. TikTok, I'm even on there, All Things Basketball GD. And then on Twitter, it's GD That Sport Dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Y'all go check them out. All of that information will be in the description as well. And I'm going to close this out, man. Just hang tight for me, all right?
Yep.
I want to give a big thanks to our Afros in Audio and Black podcast community for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcast Association, the link will be in the description below. And if you want to join us at our 5th annual Afros in Audio Podcast Festival, visit bit.ly/AFAU FAQ, which will also be in the description. Follow us on all social media channels at Afros in Audio. And thanks again, Gerald, for being a part of Afros in Audio's first ever Black History Month interview series. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Talib.